Welcome to Malts and Music, a brand new podcast brought to you by the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. My name is Vic Galloway. I'm a broadcaster, author, musician, and lifelong music fan. I'm also a massive whiskey fan. This podcast is inspired by my own experience of pairing up 12 single cask malt whiskey flavour profiles with 12 music genres. I thought, let's do something similar. Get some creative people to pair up 5 tracks with 5 delicious whiskies. We also talk about their lives, their careers, their experiences, and go off on various tangents. Enjoy. Slange. Welcome to Malts and Music, Stina Tweeddale, Honeyblood. Lovely to see you here in the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Look at these cute, sweet, delicious, lovely 5-dram taster packs that we have here. Now, pairing up music and whiskey, how did you find it?
I found it quite a niche topic.
Yeah.
But I feel like I fit the niche because I like both of those things equally, probably. So yeah, I actually found it a very enjoyable experience.
Yeah, was it a challenge? Did you sort of initially go, how am I going to do this? Previous interviewees have sort of said it's a little bit odd to start with, but then you get the hang of it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I did think it was very odd. I actually sat in my garden and took the individual little bottles out, and I had a little glass, and by the end I was just like, these are great, these are all brilliant, but that's because I'm a scaff. So
well, we're gonna go through each one. We're gonna drink them. Feel free to drink the entire dram, have a couple of sips if you prefer. It's completely up to you. Now, when you go for a whiskey in a bar or a hotel or wherever, if you're going to buy yourself a bottle, what do you tend to go for? What kind of tastes?
So I like Islay whiskies. I like things that are peaty, but I've kind of been developing my taste because I used to really dislike Talisker and think it was too much, and now I love it. So I feel like, you know, in the kind of 10 years that I've been drinking whiskey, you do kind of like evolve your taste buds. So the first whiskey I ever tried was Jura that I loved, and that still is, people buy that for my birthday, you know. But I really like Lafroig. This is my new favorite.
Oh, so you're going right into the peat then?
Yes. Yeah. So I've gone from Jura, which is probably the lighter kind of Islay whiskey, right past to the hardcore.
The hard stuff. And there's a sort of perception, I think that perception's completely disappeared now, but there was a perception maybe, I don't know, 50 years ago or something, whiskey was an old man's drink, but it certainly isn't
I
anymore.
am an old man. I'm an old man in disguise.
You're an old archaeology lecturer.
Yes. So dusty.
No, but I mean, it's enjoyed by everyone now, and it seems like a modern drink. It's not sort of, you know, an old dude in a bar in the middle of nowhere in Scotland staring into his whiskey.
I mean, that definitely still exists, but I find that I don't really like things with mixer. I'm really picky about what I drink that I enjoy. So I'm not really like a kind of mixer Coca-Cola or something like that. And when I kind of learned that you get very slight headaches off drinking whiskey and you can have a very good time and then wake up the next day and feel good, I was like, why does everybody not drink this? It also tastes delicious. So for me, it's the perfect drink if you're going out to a disco. I feel like, you know, you sip it and then you can go and dance and you're not spilling your drink everywhere. You've not got a pint that makes you bloated or whatever. So yeah, it's my drink if I'm going out to have a party, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, everyone likes having a dram sitting around a roaring fire, but as you just outlined, you can have a whiskey in a nightclub.
You can.
And it's the perfect thing.
If people haven't done that yet, I definitely say try it.
Well, nightclubs, music, whiskey, that's what we're here for. We're going to go for dram number 1. Let's open our tasting packs. This is exciting because I have to say, you've obviously tried all of these and paired a tune with each one. I'm tasting them all for the first time, so that's doubly exciting for me.
Well,
so I'm going to take my tasting
You're in for a
notes.
treat.
Oh, great.
And I really like that, I feel like it's kind of like Pokemon cards or something here.
Yeah. With the tasting notes, I'll read some of those out in a second. So we're going to go with dram number 1. Take one of these fine Scotch Malt Whisky Society glasses. And there we go. Pouring in dram number 1, which is, they've all got brilliant titles as always. Late Night Pantry Raid. So before I have a sip or a nose, I'm going to read out some of these. It's quite small type and I'm losing my eyesight a little bit. So, bleary-eyed and peckish, you stare into the depths of the pantry in search of a midnight snack.
We've all been there.
Pushing past aromas of chamomile tea bags, Galliano liqueur, and half-used packets of Ichiban soup flavouring, you pull out a box of bran flakes, dried raspberries, and honey. The tasting notes go on, but that is a great introduction.
Yeah.
This is a Speyside, 14 years old, and 58.1%. Okay. Oh, it's quite light on the nose, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely got a sort of, I like the jelly bellies and the salted licorice.
Yeah, these are more of the tasting notes.
Oh, sorry, you've not read that yet, yeah. But I definitely think the salted licorice stands out to me because I love licorice also, so...
It's funny with licorice, some people like the sweet stuff. I love the salty stuff as well. There is a bit of salt on the nose, definitely. It's quite a mild nose, though. Some really hit you, right? I'm going in.
Certified delicious.
Oh, it is certified delicious, isn't it? I'm getting the sweetness a bit more now. I'm getting that as you say, jelly bellies, milk chocolate, golden raisins. These are all part of the tasting notes. Definitely,
it's got like a sort of like back of the cupboard dried fruit feeling, you know, like jars of fruit. Says here, even bran flakes. Now I'm tasting it. I'm like, yeah. It takes a little bit of time for your brain to put the flavors together, I think.
Oh,
but
sip number 2, it just gets better and better. So, what tune have you paired up with Late Night Pantry Raid?
So, I'm a big fan of this band, and pretty much any song to me is gold. But I chose the B-52's Topaz.
I have to say, this is a big tune for me at school.
I love
it comes from the album Cosmic Thing, 1989. I left school in 1990, so you can imagine it's a perfect time. I obviously liked their earlier stuff, Rock Lobster, and the first album specifically. But Cosmic Thing was a brilliant album. Rome's on there. Obviously, Love Shack, the big hits on there as well. But Topaz is a beautiful tune as well, isn't it? Great harmonies. It's very, I feel like compared to other songs, it's maybe like a bit more subtle. B-52 is a more subtle way. But I've been listening to that album so much recently, and they're a big influence on the record that I'm making at the moment for Honeyblood. Like, for the last couple of years, I've just been kind of obsessed with them. So they've really made an impact on what I'm making. And only a couple of weeks ago, I've been listening to this song over and over again. I found a few records, B-52's records in some record stores actually in Edinburgh, and there's a guy that has a stall at the Quarter Mile, and I found a party mix of the B-52s, which is like an extended mix of like their hits. To be honest, Topaz wasn't on it, but there was some great ones on there. And I know that guy with that stall, Tall Paul Robinson.
Yeah.
Got the best sideburns in Edinburgh.
Well, I was very impressed to find something like that, and I'm sure nobody else wanted it, but I bought it because I would love that sort of thing. And I can imagine kind of being in your kitchen and dancing around to the B-52s with a whiskey, you know, while the party mix was on. You put that on when you have a guest over or something.
Feeling a bit peckish, going to the back of the pantry and finding some dried fruits. So tell me, this particular song, as you say, it's maybe a little lighter than some of the other B-52 stuff. It's not quite as spiky and punchy. It's more melodic, it's more harmonic. Yeah. Honeyblood stuff is very melodic. I mean, your stuff.
Thank you.
But if you say this is going to be an influence on future recordings or current recordings, does that mean you're kind of getting a bit more luscious and less kind of grungy?
Oh no, definitely not. It's still got that kick. I think the fact that the sort of fun aspect of the B-52s and the kind of bizarreness, I think I'm pulling from there a lot. And I feel like if I was going to be in any other band apart from my own band, which unfortunately for me I am in, I would want to be in that band. So I think of them as being uber cool. And I got a chance to see them last time I was in America. They played the Greek Theatre in LA. They actually supported Boy George.
Wow.
But they were amazing, and you know they're pretty old now, and they were absolutely slammed, and it was great. So
Yeah.
I aspire to be this band, I think.
Well, you've already said that you went to the record stall at Quarter Mile in Edinburgh. You're a fan, obviously.
Yes.
I wouldn't have asked you to do this if you weren't a fan of whiskey and music. How do you sort of consume your music? Do you like vinyl? You pick up records?
I love vinyl, and I moved house a couple of times recently, and unfortunately I broke my vinyl player, which was pretty sad because I've had it for a very long time. Mm-hmm. But my dad gave me my granddad's vinyl player, and I just moved house like a couple of days ago, and I'm going to set it up, old kind of 70s one.
It's probably an amazing deck as well.
I think
those
so.
old 70s players are, like, one, they're usually indestructible.
Oh yeah, it's been dropped so many times.
but also they've usually got, like, you know, the cartridges and the needles and so on are just like of a certain spec, you
Absolutely,
know.
yeah.
It probably sounds brilliant.
Yeah, and I've got like a whole bunch of his records that I probably won't play as much as the stuff that I love, but because he loved jazz, so he's like, you know, he loved the Modern Jazz Quartet, was like his absolute favorite. So there's a lot of those records that come with that player, which would be nice to kind of bring back out for him.
Definitely, I love jazz now. I mean, I always have done, but I'm sort of immersing myself in it nowadays, and it's like dipping your toe into an infinite ocean. There's absolutely tons of jazz out there that you need to dig into to even have a vague knowledge of the genre. But I'm trying. So vinyl, CDs, do you still go for those?
So I also, when I moved house, I found a whole bunch of CDs from my parents' house from times past, like actual teenage me and what CDs I had. And I loved them so much, and I loved music as a kid so much, and I only had, like, you know, a certain amount of pocket money. I used to go to the library. This was illegal at the time, but, you know, we're past that now. But I used to go to the library and take CDs. I have, like, for example, I have like Nevermind by Nirvana, and my dad had one of the first ever CD burners. So he had like a double, you know, you put your blank disc in and you put your CD you're trying to copy, and I would put them in and I would copy them, and then I would draw the artwork. And so I have like a stack of these, and you can definitely see where my band came from, because there's like Jeff Buckley, PG Harvey, and all this stuff was just in my library. I remember it being 20p for 2 weeks or something. You could...
Yeah, it's like you're not the only person I know that did exactly that.
I know it's not allowed. You're not supposed to do that, but, you know, needs must when you only get like a couple of pounds for your pocket money.
Yeah. No, I know loads of people that did that, and or if it wasn't burning a CD, it would be taping taking the CD or the vinyl out of the library and then just, you know, surreptitiously taping it so you had a copy.
Yeah.
It's one copy. It's not like sharing it with billions of people on the internet. I think it's allowed.
Well, I also used to tape. I had a cassette tape radio. I used to tape the radio also. So I used to wait till the song that I wanted came on, and then I'd be like, "Wah!" tape it. So I have like I found a box of stuff, and it's just like the most wild, like halfway through like the news, like cassettes, like 4 songs or something. But
I've got cassettes when it's like taped off the John Peel show, so it'll just have him sort of going Mogwai or something like that, and you hear his voice and then the song, or like they just coming out at the end of the song or something like that. But that's great. That's
quite a time
passage.
capsule, isn't it? Like a time capsule, that if you've got John Peel's voice on it, you know exactly what era that was.
Yeah.
Pretty
And
cool.
also there will be people possibly listening or watching who don't remember people taping things off the radio. You know, it's a lot.
True.
That's something that doesn't happen anymore, I wouldn't imagine. Although I'm sure there's a digital equivalent. Anyway, how are you getting on with the dram?
I love this. I think it's really delicious. I feel like it's sort of a wintry one.
Yeah.
And good for this weather, actually. And yes, it's a yes for me.
Yeah,
I'm enjoying this.
there was me saying, don't feel that you need to drink the entire dram, and I'm pretty much at the end of this dram.
I'm gonna pace myself for the next one. I think.
I'm gonna try a bit of water in this one just to see if it changes the complexity. Just probably about the same amount of water.
I never usually have water, but I've been drinking whiskey recently, and I've been suggested by other people to put 1 ice cube in, and I have been doing that, and I actually have enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Just 1.
I know some people say, ice near a whiskey is sacrilege.
I usually think so, right? I'm usually so against it because I like the warmness of it, so I love it to be room temperature. I don't understand the chilled feeling of it, but I think depending on what one it is, you can get away with it.
I gave my friend a bottle of Bowmore fairly recently, and to my horror, he put it in the fridge.
Oh my god!
And
he's like, "Thanks, Vic."
Yeah, put it in the fridge and
just chill this
served
for
it
later.
chilled, which completely and utterly ruined it. But I just waited until mine was room temperature and then drank it. Well, absolutely delicious.
Yes.
What about record shops, places that you buy records, places that you go, repeated places that you maybe go to hunt things out? Any that you recommend?
I mean, I'm a charity shop fiend. I love it, and I spend a lot of time. I actually, I love record stores also, and I have very specific ones that I love around the country. So I love Pie and Vinyl in Portsmouth. Mm-hmm. It's my favorite one because you can go in there and they always have great stuff, but they also have pies. So you can get a pie, and they do this lovely elderflower cordial as well, and it comes in a little teapot. So you just buy whatever you want. You can sit down and you can ask them to put it on, and they're just so nice. So mm-hmm. I love that place. Resident in Brighton is pretty good as well. It's more. I feel like record shops are getting more itty bitty, mm-hmm. so it's interesting to go in that one because it's bigger. But here, I love Vox Box, mm-hmm. so that's probably my favorite here. And
in Edinburgh, Darren,
and Assai
great
as
guy.
well is good too.
Absolutely, Assai, and
they have everything, by the way.
Yeah.
Whenever they will find it for you.
No, absolutely, and it's great being a touring musician as well. I've never been to Portsmouth, I have to say. I'm ashamed to say I've never been there.
So actually, if you like the seaside, it's pretty good.
Yeah, but I've never had the opportunity to be there. So as a touring musician, you're going to obviously play the shows, but you're going to experience a little bit of the local culture, and Pie and Vinyl is one of the places.
It's excellent. I love it there. I always go and visit. So yeah, and I always have my vinyl in there too. So.
Cool. Well, let's move on to dram number 2, I think.
What's this one then? Raindrops on Pine Cones.
Yeah, Raindrops on Pine Cones.
I really love, this is really satisfying to be able to read about them. I feel like this is a nice experience to be able to do.
I'll give a line or two of the tasting notes here with the card. The Pokemon card, as you've said. I
don't want to bring bring it down. It's so unclassy.
But the fact that it's kind of small and in a nice little wallet inside your tasting pack. So the fragrant citrus scent of green pine needles lingered in the air as raindrops splashed from bracken and trickled down the deep groves in sap-covered tree bark. From a beehive came notes of rich honey and hard toffee with thick beeswax and the dry spice of weathered wood. It goes on, but that gives you an initial idea of raindrops on pine cones. Talking about record shops, what about gig venues and, touring? You mentioned the Greek Theatre in LA,
yes,
and then playing in Portsmouth and Brighton. You've toured a lot globally as well.
Yes.
What particular venues jump out at you?
So I love the ones that are established in the community and maybe have had a bit of a rough ride but are still there. I feel like they're just the best ones. My favorite venue of all time, which is a lot of people's favorite venue of all time, is the Brudenell in Leeds.
Yes.
And I think that an overarching amount of musicians feel that way about that venue.
And what's so special about it?
So when I first started playing there, they hadn't taken over the full thing. It's been expanded now, but they'd taken it over. But you had the most cool indie bands playing in one of the rooms, and so many art school kids with cool hair and cool clothes in one room, and then you go into the other room and it's just a full snooker hall with the guys, who've been there for 30 years, and they're well, we're not going to move for nobody. So they're still there. And I found that kind kind of amalgamation of those two like kind of weird subcultures was kind of like cool.
Gave it a real atmosphere of its own.
It made it like sort of like it's very legit in its working class background and where it roots and where it came from. Unfortunately for those guys, the tables are gone now, and they've just extended the venue and made it like super massive, so it's like it can hold bigger gigs, I think now, which I haven't been to yet. I've only been to the other two rooms, but I thought that was very cool. And they have sometimes like pizza vans outside and things like that, and I feel like there's not really a lot around that area, so people just go for that. But it's some of my favorite gigs have been there.
And they have great sort of t-shirts and merch and things as well. They're really cool, the Brudenell, just in general. And you're right. I think almost every, certainly UK musician that you speak to, that's in the top 3, if not number 1.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just the ethos of it. Like the venue itself is good, but it's just what it is. It's more Nathan who owns it, and he's got his little dog, which I think is called Charles. It's a King Charles Spaniel.
Right.
He's very old. It's just like everybody's so nice. Everybody wants to be there. Everybody's so excited about you playing and kind of being part of their community for just like one night. And I really love it. And I've had some great times there. Yeah. So.
And it beats any kind of corporate kind of branded venue that's just a breeze block box. That's just there to make money out of you. This is something that's for the community, as you say, and for the musicians who tour and arrive.
Yeah, and also they kind of nailed it. So it's like they're on a roll, and then they're actually building the venue to be better and better and better. So the entire time, I keep on seeing it kind of develop for the venue to not exactly like to like just pocket the money or whatever. He seems to be putting money back into the venue, back into the community. It's a great place if you're a band from that place, like play your first gig there. But also I saw like the Cribs did like 2 weeks just like residence there and stuff like that. So it's one of those places. I love it.
Yeah, respect to the Brudenell in Leeds. Let's have a nose of this dram, number 2, Raindrops on Pine Cones. We've given some of the tasting notes out. I'm getting much more citrus on this one.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Oh, it's got a real twang on the nose, if that's such a saying. I'm going to have a sip.
It's definitely got a little bit of nutmeg in it. It definitely feels like you're near a tree.
Yeah.
You could be in
slight woodiness to
the aroma of a tree.
I suppose the pine cones gives that away. It definitely has. It's I wouldn't say it's got a sourness to it, because that's maybe too harsh. But it's got a sort of woodiness to it. I like it.
Yeah, me too. I love citrus. That's like my favorite taste, I think, if I could choose like a kind of basic like category. So that to me is really, really nice.
What track have you gone for with this one?
So I chose Mazzy Star Blue Flower, which I can just see kind of Hope Sandoval like walking through a forest into a meadow or something while this is being sipped and you're listening to that song. So
another similar to B-52's 1990.
Yeah.
You kind of been born by that point.
I mean, I was, but I was definitely not playing the guitar. So,
but is that sort of era that particular time? You've mentioned Nirvana as well, and various others, PJ Harvey and so on. They were all kind of emerging or hitting their stride around that time. Is that kind of late 80s and early 90s? Is that a period that you love?
Yeah, I think so. I think that there must have been some magic happening in that era. I definitely think 89 and then going into the 90s and early 90s is like, to me, there's some very, very interesting things that happened during that time that possibly kind of shaped how I make music. So yeah, definitely when it comes to guitar bands and guitar based things, I love all the kind of the sounds from that era. And Mazzy Star, I loved as a kid so much. I think that the kind of like mixture of the on this song especially, the kind of like fuzzy guitar with like Hope's like super sweet vocal. I think that's cool.
Yeah, and they always have that Velvet Underground, Jesus and Mary Chain kind of connection as well.
Yeah, I think this song actually sounds so much like Jesus and Mary Chain. Which is cool because it does have a honey taste as well. So I thought there was
Sandoval and Jim Reed went out with each other, did they not?
Oh, there's some celebrity gossip, indie celebrity gossip
from about 30 years ago.
Yeah,
were they not an item at one point?
I have no idea, but it makes sense now, doesn't it?
Yeah. So the woodiness of the whiskey goes with Hope, like walking through a sort of shaded forest.
Yeah.
I can see that.
You can see it.
So tell me about whiskey then. When did you get into it? You mentioned 10 years.
Yeah.
Who got you into it?
I can't remember exactly, but I definitely got to a point in my life where I was like, I won't drink, a vodka and Coke. Please don't give them to me. And I think I was maybe very early, maybe 20 or something like that. And I actually started working in a snooker hall. I know I just talked about that, but I worked in a snooker hall. So I worked for the Ballroom in Morningside, if you know that place.
I don't actually
It used to be called the Angle Club.
Right, no, I don't. I'm a Lether again.
Yeah, other side.
I don't actually know snooker clubs in Morningside. Does it still exist?
It does.
I must get up there and have a game or two. Quite like going into the only snooker hall I've ever been to was one that doesn't exist anymore on Leith Walk. And
up the stairs.
Up the stairs. It was terrifying. If you went in
They're
there,
all terrifying.
But it was next to I think it was next to a boxing club. So it was like guys that like went boxing and guys that played snooker, and then there was us guys going into. Anyway, so tell us about your whiskey experiences.
Yeah, so it was just before I started Honeyblood. I worked there trying to like figure out what I was going to do with my life, I guess. And I realized that there's an etiquette to playing snooker. I learned that the hard way very early on. And there's also an etiquette to drinking and what you drink. And mostly the orders would be whiskey of some sort or pints of best. And the amount of, when I first started, and it was very distressing, the amounts of pints of best that came back because they were not poured correctly, and I got my wrist slapped a few times because you cannot mess it up. These are regulars who come in. They come in once a week. Some of them would come in every day to play snooker, and they would have their pint of best, and you've got to have it correctly. So.
Oh, it's like pouring a bad pint of Guinness as well.
Yes, exactly.
It's a sin.
Yeah.
So what? And you started having a dram or two while working there.
I did. So after my shift, I would. There was like so much options, and I'm pretty sure that I was given a little dram of Jura.
Right.
To ease me in.
Now, your dad's a musician as well. Does he drink whiskey? He
does. He would drink maybe Jura. I don't think he would enjoy something peaty. He would ease off. He's more of a wine drinker, to be honest, and he does like a pint of Guinness, but he's very picky about that kind of stuff as well. But you may catch him if you handed it to him in a pub, he would drink it.
and so, I mean, he obviously influenced you in terms of you playing guitar and being a musician. Yeah. But would you, or maybe nowadays, would you share a dram with him?
I would influence him. I would find something that he would like and give it to him, and he possibly would like it, but he possibly would not.
Does he come and see Honeyblood play live?
He does, but not enough. I think I see him more than he sees me.
I met your mum at gigs, so I know she comes.
She's my super fan. She's at every single one. And she also knows about stuff before I do. She's like my press person or something, PR, because she's always like retweeting things that I'm tagged in and I have no idea what they are. Or like finding interviews from years ago. She's got a lot of stuff in the house that she like prints out and like keeps, and yeah, it's pretty embarrassing, really. But no, I think my dad kind of just cares about the music and the songs, and is like my first person to like hear my demos. He also tells me when they're terrible, which I really appreciate because not a lot of people tell me. I'd rather know.
Well, no, that's good. Yeah, constructive criticism.
Yeah.
Well, and how about drinking whiskey on tour? I mean, obviously we talked about you traveling far and wide. Do you have a few drams after the show?
I do.
Or before the show, maybe?
Yes, I usually have one before. So I've had times where I've lost my voice because, I tour extensively, and there are points in my career earlier where I really didn't know how to do that many shows in a row. And you're using your vocal. It really is a muscle, so it gets tired. And, I wasn't unwell, but I was definitely feeling the effects of playing every night. And it turned out that if you had a hot toddy before you play, somehow you're miraculously cured. Maybe just because it's alcohol, I don't know. But it helped me through a couple of shows. I actually played one in Electric Circus, and the bar made me a hot toddy. And I drank it before I played, and my voice came back.
Wow. Yeah. That's a great tip. I've heard that before, but to hear it from someone that's actually had the miracle cure is great. Yeah.
So what I'll do is I don't drink that much on tour. I keep it to a real minimum, but I'll pour myself a whiskey before I play, and I'll have a couple of sips with it, and then I'll take it on stage, and if I need it, I'll sip it, and then I'll probably not, and then I get to finish it after the show.
Yeah, well, that's very responsible, because, so many rock and rollers I know, tour time is party time.
Well, it can be. I used to drink beer on stage, and I now look at that as a terrible mistake. So now it's whiskey, and maybe we'll have a little bit of bubbly if it's a big show or something like that, right. But it's whiskey.
It's very honest of you. And I have to say, you've been very well behaved. All our previous guests have downed their whiskies, and I'm about to go through dram number 2 here.
Maybe I'll have a little bit more.
Whiskey, is it, drinking whiskey, gigs aside, is it about the company, do you think? Is it about the situation you're in? What makes it so special?
I think it's about a lot of stuff. I think to me, I love to have a whiskey after I've had a really busy day. So I'll have it as like a bookend. You just have one, and that's kind of like the end of the day. And I think that it's kind of like to sip it, you sip it so slowly, and it takes, time to drink it. It kind of like calms you down, unwind sort of feeling.
Yeah.
So.
And not necessarily having, loads and loads and loads, just one or two at the end of the day just to calm you down. Quite right too. If that works for you, obviously if it doesn't work for you, don't do it. But it's there. Some people it's drinking to excess, having loads and loads of beers.
Well, you can't really do that with a bottle that's like 60 quid or something. If you're going to drink that entire bottle, then you can do that, but you're going to have a £60 hangover there. So
yeah, that's true as well. Well, I'm very fond of Raindrops on pine cones. I think Late Night Pantry Raid was slightly easier to drink, but I think Raindrops on pine cones is more complex and more detailed in its flavouring and in the different kinds of aromas that I'm getting from it on the nose and in the mouth. It's really delicious.
It's kind of citrusy at the beginning, and then it kind of catches the back of your throat at the woodiness at the end, I think. Yeah. But delicious, both delicious.
Well, I'm going to move on.
Okay, what is
we are now on to dram number 3, which is Rekindled Romance, which looks a lot lighter.
So this is my favourite one.
Okay.
So I probably will drink all of this one.
Okay. Now this is an Islay. It's 11 years old and it's 57.1%. Let me just say that the last one that we were drinking, Raindrops on Pine Cones, is Speyside, 56.5, and it was a 12-year-old. So we're on to an Islay. You've already said that you like the Islay malts. This is Refill ex-bourbon hogshead cask. And here are some of the tasting notes just quickly. A surprisingly fresh and floral aroma greeted the panel before the more familiar scent. A mixture of sandy beaches, salty sea breeze, and the sweet peat smoke found us back on terra firma. The taste, neat again, came as a little surprise, very spicy and maybe even a little grubby. One panellist was reminded of a date, banana garam masala, peanut butter smoothie. We took his word for it. That is a great...
I love that. The banana garam masala peanut butter smoothie. That's like a specific, that's very niche.
He's getting
taste.
serious tastes off this
But
one, isn't he?
I'm into that because I love garam masala. So I'm like, and I love peanut butter as well. So
Rekindled Romance. Let us open the bottle and go in. Rekindled Romance poured. Now, you've gone for a band that I absolutely love. In fact, I love all your choices for all 5 drams. Tell us what you've paired with Rekindled Romance.
So seeing as this is my favourite one, it was the first song I chose as well. I've chosen the Slits, Love and Romance. Just popped into my head when I was drinking this in my garden, and definitely think that, well, we'll let you have a taste and then I'll tell you what I think of it.
The Slits Love und Romance is from Cut in 1979. Their debut album, which contained Typical Girls, maybe their most famous song. They were with the first batch of original UK punk bands. So Sex Pistols, Damned, Clash, Susie and the Banshees, and the Slits were in there too. And they were teenagers, or certainly Ari Up, the lead singer, was. Mm-hmm. This is a brilliant, cynical song. I mean, lots of songs have kind of been written in this style since, but I think at the time, teenage punky girls being cynical about love and romance in this way was totally groundbreaking.
Yeah, I love them. I've always loved them. Everything about that record changed my life, and I love the cover so much as well. The actual artwork is like one of the coolest things I've ever seen. I read,
which you could say they're the 3 members of the band are all caked in mud, but sort of topless or sort of waist up.
Yeah.
And
they're like feral, aren't they?
Yeah, they are
like,
feral. Yeah, and they're like sort of, it's like tribal, isn't it? It's an extraordinary record.
Yeah, it's great. I think for the time as well, when you think about all the things that were coming out and you think about them as being like a female band who are making that caliber of punk music, there's a lot of, I feel like now they're maybe celebrated, but maybe at the time not so much because of the fact that they're ladies. And if I've read Viv Albertine's biography, which is honestly so great, but the way she speaks about it in those days at the beginning when she is an innocent kind of teenager who's just like going mental and like kind of like gets carried away and does whatever. I kind of feel like when you read that and you listen to the music and you can see the correlation, but I really don't believe that they knew how good they were at the time, Well,
we should also big up Budgie from Susie and the Banshees, who played drums on that record as well, because the drumming's great. It's such a unique album. And let me see, why did you choose it to go with, obviously, Rekindled Romance, Love and Romance, so there's the title, but...
The title, but also I feel like, I'll have a sip and I'll...
I'm actually, weirdly enough, getting the garam masala on the nose.
So this one,
it's got a real spiciness. Completely unlike the last 2.
I think the word that I was looking for is angular, which I think is the music has this sort of, that song has sort of like an angular kind of like strange beat, and like sort of tempo is very weird. And when I had a taste of this, I did think, I was like, it's so strange for a whiskey. It's not a straightforward whiskey, I think, this one.
No, well, it's I said the sandy beaches and sea salt breeze. There's definitely that, but there's this spiciness to it as well. The nose is amazing. It really is. Anyone that doesn't know or like have an interest in whiskey, I'm sure you won't be listening to or watching this, but someone needs to taste a whiskey like this or smell a whiskey like this to know how exotic it can be. Right?
Yeah.
Let me have a sip.
It's like to me, this is a weird one, but in a great way, because, you can have your classic ones, but this one I feel is kind of like outside of the lines a little bit.
And that has got a sort of tobacco-y taste to it as well when you put it in on the mouth, especially towards the middle back of your mouth. I'm a smoker as well, occasional smoker, always trying to give up. And this... I know you shouldn't ruin your taste buds by having a cigarette necessarily with one of these fine whiskies, but it could go perfectly with this. Although I don't condone smoking, ladies and gentlemen.
You can stand next to a fire or something.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about Honeyblood. We obviously been hearing about touring and so on, but 3 albums deep now. So you must have had some incredible times so far.
I have. I was thinking about it the other day because of obviously everything that's happened in the last couple of years, how thankful I am to have lived the life that I have lived up until this point. And I keep on, now that I have time to reflect on it, I've been kind of like telling all my stories, and I feel like I'm boring everybody that's around me, because I'm just like, let me tell you about the time I went to Australia, and let me tell you about the time we got locked out of our van, and yada yada, and all of the silly tour stories that I think are so funny. But I think when I'm kind of 80 years old, I'll look back on them and think, wow, that was some interesting times.
I completely agree. And now each to their own, and everyone lives their own lives and so on. But I think that if you can get to a ripe old age and have a million and one stories to tell, then that's the kind of life. That's certainly the kind of life I've tried to lead as well.
I get in trouble all the time. I end up making terrible decisions, and then I have to deal with them. But I do think that it's better to. I'm thankful that I have had that time. Not over yet, though. I have got another album coming out. So.
Self-titled debut,
yes.
Babes Never Die, second album, In Plain Sight, third album. Where are we going with the fourth album? You mentioned that B-52's influence.
Yeah. So I've been talking. So I have a patron that I kind of like let exclusively look into my world, which has been great because I've been doing kind of like stuff over this time in 2020, 2021, but now I'm going to probably direct the shift back to my next full album. And I've been explaining to them that it's a cross between, although you'll listen to it and be like, it sounds like nothing of those bands at all. Cross between the Bangles, B-52s, and the Go-Go's.
Oh, wow. Well, I love all of those.
If you're into that, then you're going to like HB4, which is unnamed at the moment. That's what I call it, HB4.
HB4 sounds good. It sounds like a rail link, unfortunately.
Yes, it does.
So maybe I'll come up with a better title. Although HB4 in the right font would look cool on an album cover.
Yes,
so
I do love a good font.
That's exciting. That's exciting. And to be a professional musician and turn your, much as I've done in a slightly different way, turn your kind of teenage hobby and the thing that you're passionate about into your job is
so much.
Yeah. And sup some good whiskey along the way as well. Was it something? Was there a plan B? Was it just kind of no? I have to do this. Was it a childhood dream?
I mean, I know I said that I was an archaeology teacher here. I've got a trench coat on, so I'm a sort of archaeologist lady. But I have a degree in economics and social history. So
cool.
So yeah, I guess there was a plan B at some point, but yeah, I don't know what I would do with that now. Mm-hmm. I don't know what my experience is in rocking on. So
are you a lifer then? Is this it?
I guess so. I've come this far. I mean, I love to write songs. That's really where I get my passion from. I love to perform, but I feel like if I didn't have the songs, then that would mean nothing. So I see myself as more a songwriter. And I hope to continue that until, I drop down dead. Would
you write songs for other people? Would you write songs for Pink or for...
I would love to. So if Pink is listening to this podcast, then hit me up. So I have been. So I've been writing for other people and writing with people and kind of like putting out the feelers for kind of like doing that. As well as doing Honeyblood stuff. And also doing my solo EP, which I wrote kind of like a different style. I bought my first synth, and for a guitar player, I was like, I don't need a synth. For my last record, my full-length record, I bought a guitar synth pedal because I was so adamant I wasn't going to play the synth. So I bought a pedal that made my guitar sound like a synth. But now I own a synth. So
fair enough. It's only a matter of time before you own a synthesizer or two or three.
True.
It's when you have an entire room of them that you have to start worrying.
I mean, now I'm like, please, I want that room. So
that's good. So how are you getting on with the whiskey then?
I mean, I love this one. Romance. I think I drank it the most out of it. But
so
yeah, I really, really
this is
like
it. This is the PT number in the batch.
Yeah, but I feel like it's not like super PT. It's like very fresh, as it says, fresh, floral. And I like that they've chosen the color green, my favorite color. I also feel like it has a sort of it makes sense with that sort of fresh feeling.
It's part of the, for everyone listening who knows the Scotch Malt Whisky Society flavour profiles, it's part of the lightly peated flavour.
It's definitely lightly, but
it is
very
but
good.
It's got a spice. It's got a real flavour to this. This is not a bland kind of, it's very lightly peated, but kind of bland otherwise. This is delicious. It's absolutely superb. And unfortunately, Stina, as you're being very sensible, I'm just about to finish this.
I know, right? Okay, I'm gonna neck this one. I'll finish this
I'm
one.
gonna add a little bit of water, and then we should move on to dram number 4. Otherwise, this is going to be a 7-hour podcast.
Yeah, delicious. I mean, I could drink
the water definitely dulls the sort of slightly more tobacco-y flavours, but brings out the saltiness, I think.
I'll give it a go then.
Yeah,
so I don't usually put water in my drams, but
it just very occasionally. I mean, I'm the same. Sometimes I don't bother, but sometimes I just, I know, especially if it's got complex flavours, the water can change it and bring out a different set of those flavours, or pinpoint one of the flavours that perhaps is in the background.
Yeah, it feels like it's more floral when you add water.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I like this one.
Okay. So with our late night pantry raid, I should say. That's a
totally different thing.
Total faux pas there. Late night pantry raid was sweet, fruity, and mellow as a tasting profile. Raindrops on pine cones, spicy and sweet. We've just had Rekindled Romance, which is lightly peated, and we move on to Sunshine on Cream Cakes.
Oh yeah,
which is deep, rich, and dried fruits. And I often, when I'm in the Scotch Malt Whisky Society with my girlfriend or friends, my brother or whatever, and we're just having a few drams, maybe a bite to eat. And it is the best place. I mean, I don't live too far from here either, so I can.
Oh, you're spoiled.
I know. I can just wander down, and it's a real treat. And I have to say, during COVID times as well, being able to come in here, everything's beautifully spaced out. You don't feel like people are on top of you. You don't feel like no one's badly behaved or jumping on each other or anything like that. You can have a very civilized, quality time, and of course drink the finest whiskies known to man. I often go for a deep, rich and dried fruits, depending on what they've got on in the particular bottles.
So this is kind of like your jam then.
Well, I'll see. On paper it is. Whether we go in, I've enjoyed all 3 so far, but yeah.
The colour of this is so nice. So it's sort of like a pinky colour, like peachy.
Yeah,
which
is.
I really love. I kind of like that they're all so different in colour.
It's utterly different from the last colour. The last colour was like this, very light lemon kind of.
Lemon, yeah.
Yeah, and this is, as you say,
it's peach sort of.
Especially when you had it on the table there. I was looking at it. It looked really peachy.
Oh, I mean, this smells delicious.
Yeah.
Like a dessert.
Yeah, I think that's sometimes if I'm in the right mood for it, that's what I love about these. So this is a Highland. It's from a recharred hogshead cask. It's 9 years old and it is 59.8%. And let me do a couple of lines of the tasting notes as well. Sunshine kissed aromas of bramble jam, melons and marmalade joined a sweet array of toffee apples, sponge cake and vanilla syrup with a coating of coconut. I mean, that just sounds like my jam straight away. I'm going in. Well, let's have a nose first.
It smells really divine.
Oh, yeah. And again, it's got that real fruity...
Oh, it's so sweet. It's like a dessert.
Yeah. I think sometimes if I'm in the mood for that kind of dram, that's why I go for them.
Oh, you can really taste the coconut.
Yep.
So much.
And although it becomes a bit of a broken record saying this, totally different from the last dram.
Yeah, well, I mean, night and day, really. But to be honest, I really like this one also. And I usually would prefer this one. So that's a different for me. I would never choose something like this.
No.
Nah.
Sunshine on Cream Cakes. What have you gone for music-wise to pair up with this one?
My song here, because when I feel like it is desserty and kind of like sweet, I chose Soccer Mommy, which is kind of a newer song. And the song I chose was Circle the Drain.
Which is an introspective lyric. I mean, it's a really melodic song.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. I love both this record, the new one, and also Clean, the record before. I love them both. I think she is, for the niche of what she delivers, which is this kind of like introverted look and sort of like sweet feeling. She nails it. So
It's funny because, I mean, if people are listening or watching, enjoying the chat, and perhaps are going to discover Honeyblood's music, your music, as a result of this, I think actually, especially by the time we get to dram number 5 and song number 5, this is a real insight into your brain,
I guess
your musical
so, yeah.
brain, which is obviously what we want from these discussions. But I think if you kind of add all these 5 tunes together, and put them in a blender, you kind of have Honeyblood at the end.
Let's go with that. Yes, that's good.
But you know what I mean? There's certainly elements of Soccer Mommy in what you do.
So
not
much,
that you sound identical in any way, shape, or form.
No,
But
I resonate with it, definitely. Yeah, I love her. I think there's a lot of newer artists out there that kind of like are in the same vein as that, but I feel like she is outstanding in what she delivers. And I actually recently watched a video of her using a hologram guitar pedal. Can be used for synth also. If anybody's into geeking, if you like whiskey and you also like music, maybe you like guitar pedals. But it's called a hologram pedal. It's called a microcosm. And I watched her play this microcosm and used it on that record and in this song, I think, possibly. And I contacted them and they gave me one also.
Oh.
So I'm going to use it on my record.
That's the power of being a rock star, though, isn't it?
Oh, it's absolutely so tricky to kind of get your head around because, again, it's built on the technology of synths and I'm not so good with that stuff, but I cannot wait to work on that. So
Now, I mean, Soccer Mommy, yourself, and all of the choices you made in Malts and Music, they're all female artists or female-fronted bands.
Yeah.
That a conscious decision to do
I
that.
did, and I think guitar-driven female bands, I think that says a lot about my identity and where I come from and also my music. And there's also a wealth of good tunes out there that I could pair with these whiskies.
Yeah. And do you think we're in a sort of golden age of female artists stepping forward? And
I definitely think in the last 10 years that I have been performing and releasing music, I've seen it grow and grow, which is really great. And every time I listen to like people come and speak to me at shows or they talk to me on the internet or whatever, and you know, younger women that are like, I never really had there wasn't really a place for me. And because I keep on seeing more and more women playing the guitar, you know, they feel like they can too as well. So
well, and myself as a musician, but mainly known as a radio broadcaster and, you know, sort of champion of new artists and this kind of stuff. I've been doing radio programs for the BBC for 22 years now, and I have to say, there's always been really great quality female artists or female-fronted acts.
Definitely.
But I think that as I've said, I think we're perhaps in a golden age. Across different genres, it could be an electronica artist, it could be a rapper, it could be a classical composer, a noisy guitar player, whatever it may be, singer-songwriters. I think, you know, girls are right to the front, as Bikini Kill would like to have had it.
definitely.
You know? Quite right too. Tell us a little bit about the pandemic. How has that affected you? You mentioned your Patreon fans, and you've got an EP, a souvenir of a terrible year.
Yes.
That was a necessity, I suppose. Talk us through it.
It was. So at the beginning of, gosh, we're going back now, March 2020, when we were locked down for the first time. Before we got locked down and we were getting told about what was happening, I had a whole bunch of people come to my studio every single night. I think when shows were cancelled, so, you know, you weren't allowed to gather, but you were still allowed to move freely. I had people come to my studio and do like a little set on live stream. So I had M. Woods, I did one, Carla J. Easton did one, Martha Fionn had one, and then I had a whole bunch lined up to do. And then we were put into lockdown. So I was like, I remember being like, you guys, I'll call you when this is all blew over and we can
I'll call you in a couple of months.
Yeah, exactly. And lo and behold, that didn't happen. But it gave me such a feeling where I couldn't believe the support from people, you know, online who wanted to donate to the cause. So donate to the musicians or just be a part of it. And so many people were like, it's really nice to just have something to watch. I go to gigs 3 or 4 times a week, and for that to be taken away, it's kind of like, this gives me something. So I set up my Patreon, And I kind of did it as an experiment, really. I didn't really, I'll be honest, I didn't really know what I was doing at the beginning. But
it's always the best way,
yeah,
I think,
anyway. I feel like now looking back on it, I'm like, wow, that really is a kind of like strange thing to go ahead with. And many artists would not feel comfortable about doing it. But I used myself as like, if you were playing The Sims, but for a musician. And my patron got to make all of the decisions about what I did. So
they chose the songs that you were going to cover? Or?
Not even the songs. They chose the instruments that I used, what kind of style the song would be when I was writing it. So it's like paint by numbers, sort of like, what do you want it to be like? So
we want heavy metal guitars, bossa nova beats, and we want it played on a steel drum.
Exactly. You know? And I was like, okay, I'll make it. I'll do my best. So they wanted to hear more down tempo, acoustic. They were really into the acoustic guitar, which my lead single didn't have acoustic guitar in it, but a lot of the other tracks from the EP do, and the synth as well. It was kind of construct for their vision of what it should be, and we were all kind of on the same path where, you know, they listened to the 3 albums I had released. They knew my back catalogue, and we knew we wanted to make something different. So.
And a souvenir for a terrible year.
And they came up with that name as well.
That is a brilliant title for this horrific 2 years almost now.
I mean, yes, it's been, the EP was actually made in 2020, but we weren't even going to release it. And so now it's 2021.
But it's a line from a Sunday's song, Here's Where the Story Ends, which you cover on the EP as well.
Yes,
so
I do.
Great track. And your version is really good as well.
Thank you.
And there you go. That's a bit of my childhood as well. I like the Sundays and that particular song and that album when I was at school.
Yes,
and
it's a great one.
It's a phenomenal album to revisit if anyone doesn't know that. A debut, Reading, Writing and Arithmetic.
Yeah.
It's a great album.
Yeah.
Well, you must have that's under your own name, Stina Marie Claire, as well.
It is, yes, which is actually the first Monkier that I released music on. I found my first ever EP when I was moving house that I released when I was 16. So I'm going back to that.
Okay, as I say, before we go into a 7-hour podcast, let's maybe move on to dram number 5. Do you know what? I'm just going to finish it.
I mean, that one's delicious. I feel like it should be at the end, though, because it's kind of dessert feeling. Although this is hard. This is hardcore, this one, I feel like. Yeah. Which is why I chose
cleansing the palate.
Which is why I chose this next song as well.
Okay. So we're on to the 5th and final dram of this episode of Malts and Music. And we have Jamming with Apfelstrudel on the Beach. Which, let's get the tasting cards here. It's a young and sprightly tasting profile. It's a Highland first fill ex-bourbon hogshead cask. It's 8 years old and is 64.4%.
Yes.
I've had a bit of evaporation of alcohol on the lips over the last 4, but this one is probably going to do something similar. So I'll read out a couple of the tasting notes here. The evocative nose mirrored the smell of exotic blends of pipe tobacco. Amongst friends, we were about to tuck into apple and raisin strudel after Sunday dinner, drinking apfel schnapps to cleanse the palate. As always, the tasting notes and the descriptions go on, but that again gives you a really nice example of what flavors we're about to have. So apple strudel, schnapps, vanilla perhaps, but also pipe tobacco, which I'm intrigued about. What did you go for musically with this one?
So I chose a young and sprightly band that I think is pretty... I feel like they're the most energetic sort of powerhouse band that I've seen live in so long, and triumphant sort of to watch. I love it. I feel like they fill you with euphoria when you watch them, and they're also so nice and lovely people. So I chose Dream Wife. So the song is called So When You Gonna, which is the title track to their second album. Yes.
And I played it many times on my BBC shows, and I actually had a live set from them once at the Electric Fields Festival, sadly no more. Lovely people.
Yes,
really.
they're so sweet, but they are absolutely punk as
Yeah, and they kick ass on stage.
Yeah, they kick ass.
There's literally a lot of high kicking going on.
Yeah.
It's punky, it's in your face, it's a total banger, this track. And a really great introduction to Dream Wife, which is also an excellent name for a band, let's be honest, Dream Wife.
Yeah, I love them, and I've always thought they were really important in the scene that I'm part of, I would say, as well. And I'm very glad they exist, and I'm very glad that they fill people with joy, but also sometimes shock people, which I think is really funny. So I thought this would be a fitting choice for this whiskey.
Okay, I'm gonna put it, having a nose on this one. Now those tasting notes,
it's pretty subtle.
It's quite a subtle nose, yeah. So I'm not getting the pipe tobacco, for instance. I mean, it is a light and sprightly, so young and sprightly, I should say. So, it's an interesting nose, though. Okay.
Ooh. Yeah, but it's good. It's like an immediate hit rather than a long-lasting one.
Yeah. You getting the apple from it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I am. It's fruity, but maybe I'm not getting the apple. But then, this is what the tasting notes are all about. They maybe suggest things to you, and you might not personally get them.
Apple and raisin strudel.
You getting that?
Yeah, I'm kind of getting a little bit of apple. Maybe not so much the shoe polish, though.
I'm now on sip number 2, sort of getting slightly more of the tobacco-y feel to it. But it is, I can definitely sense the high alcohol content.
Yeah, there's a tingling.
Without it being oppressive in any way.
No, there's definitely a tingling on the lips for this one. But it's not bad. It's not a bad thing.
This is, although it's young and sprightly and quite delicate in flavour, you wouldn't want to be drinking more than, a couple of drams of this. I think this is potent stuff.
Yeah, this is under the table, sort of.
Young and sprightly and also potent, which is kind of Dream Wife. The track is.
I feel like it, and also sort of surprisingly under the table, because you would never expect them to make the music that they make. I think that they kind of catch a lot of people off guard.
I love that juxtaposition of when you meet people and they're really friendly and unpretentious and bubbly and straightforward and lovely and sweet, and then they get on stage and it's like, was that the same person?
Yeah, totally. Especially like the fact that, there are 3 women who are like very cute and, classically you would say that they would not be in a punk band, but guess what? They're in a badass punk band. So yeah. I think that kind of is fitting.
What are your plans for 2022 then? What do you have lined up? I know it's forever a movable feast because we don't know what's around the corner.
I'll give you my aspirations for 2022 then. So I hope I'm going to release another EP under my name, Stina Mary Claire, that I've recorded in a church in Galashiels, in the Borders, with some string arrangements of the songs that I have released.
Oh wow, so it's going to be quite different from...
Yes, so I went from being, making these songs in my bedroom with, my guitar, my acoustic guitar and like a synth that I bought and like a little drum machine to making it sort of orchestral. So I feel like I've done my songs justice now because I'm not in no way a producer, and I made those in my bedroom not thinking that... I'm a novice at that sort of thing. So I really love to do it like the extreme version, which is like have, the orchestral sort of incredibly moving side of those songs, which essentially the songs are quite sad as well. So it works pretty well. And then I'm going to concentrate on finishing my 4th album. So I've got 5 songs in the bag. I haven't been able to have my band up here due to restrictions and everything else. So once I can get them up here, then.
Okay, and you're based in the Borders near Gala.
I am now based in the Borders. So I actually moved from Glasgow and I lived in Edinburgh for a small part during lockdown just to be near my family. But yeah, it's been an interesting change of scenery for me.
Well, some people love the city for inspiration, but some people love the countryside. Are you getting some kind of that space, that kind of headspace to write and imagine?
I mean, I'm all for. I love Glasgow, and I feel like it's got such a history in my career and everything that I've ever done, and all my songs have been written about times that have happened there. And even, you know, HB4 is written, so it just needs to be recorded now. So all those songs have been written previously. But I'm trying to set up a kind of like writing hub for people to come and write with me. So it's kind of nice in the country where you're kind of secluded, and I have a little outdoor space that people can come and write in. So it gives me space and time to do that, which I wouldn't possibly get in Glasgow. Too many people knocking on your door.
Too many people knocking on your door and going, let's go and have a whiskey at the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you, and thank you for sharing pearls of wisdom about whiskey and music. You paired up 5 amazing tracks with 5 amazing drams. Good luck with 2022 and onwards with Honeyblood and the solo stuff. And as we sip this dram, we shall say goodbye. And real pleasure, Stina. Thank you very much for spending some time.
Cheers to that.
It's
Cheers.
Malts and music. Cheers.
Cheers.
Slange.
Slange.
Thanks for checking out Malts and Music. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, we are building a playlist of all the tracks discussed. You can find that on Spotify. And for all your whiskey needs, unfiltered, Whisky Talk, and so much more, head along to the website smws.com. I'm Vic Galloway. This is the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, and I'll speak to you in a month's time.